My billionaire husband has suffered from a stomach problem for years. It's only with the traditional Chinese medicine I boil for him every day that he can get some relief. 9 years into our marriage, my husband forgot to accompany me to my prenatal checkup for the 5th time, enduring the abdominal pain that was a sign of a possible miscarriage. I sent him a divorce agreement. His young girlfriend shed tears and said, "It's all my fault. If you hadn't accompanied me, sister wouldn't be angry." My husband soothed her in a soft voice, but all he said to me was, "Let's get a divorce then. Don't regret it." It was only later that my husband, who was suffering from a stomachache, accidentally came across the prescription for the traditional Chinese medicine that treated his stomach problem. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Why isn't the Chinese medicine being boiled? When Bruce pushed the door open and got home, he was holding his aching stomach with his hand. In the past, whether he came home or not, I would always spend at least 2 hours boiling the prescription for nourishing the stomach. I ignored him and continued applying a facial mask while scrolling through my phone. He frowned, sent me the link to a luxury bag store, and then transferred 100,000 yuan to me. On the chat interface, the last record of him typing to talk to me was still from 7 months ago. After that, he would only occasionally buy an expensive gift. Gradually, he even got too lazy to choose gifts. He would just send links and transfer money, letting me make the choice myself. I was too lazy to reply to him. I switched to the game, Candy Crush, and casually said to him, "Remember to find time to get a divorce. Bruce is very busy, and in terms of time, I'm willing to cooperate with him. Stop being silly. Boil the medicine, and I'll drink it up properly today." Traditional Chinese medicine is bitter. In order to get Bruce to finish the medicine, I have to think of all kinds of ways every time. Slowly, following my words and drinking the medicine properly became his way of coaxing me. After he finished speaking, he threw his phone on the sofa and went into the bathroom to wash up. The phone screen was still on, and the screensaver was a selfie of his young assistant, Grace. There were also 8 pink words. "Uncle, be good and remember to take your medicine." Grace's family and Bruce's family have been friends for generations. When we had our wedding banquet, she was still a little girl, dressed as a flower girl. She said sweetly, "May you have a long and happy marriage." In the blink of an eye, she grew up. Not long after she returned from studying abroad, she became the personal assistant of her, Bruce. I'm not actually annoyed by Grace's affection for Bruce. It takes 2 to tango. If he knew how to keep his distance, there wouldn't be a young girlfriend that everyone in the city knows about. Bruce came out wrapped in a bath towel, clicked on his phone, and when he saw the screensaver, he smiled with a look of doting. His stomach ached again, his straight eyebrows furrowed, and when he looked up at me, there was a hint of disgust in his expression. Maybe he was blaming me for not boiling the medicine, just using a screensaver to remind him to remember to take his medicine. Can get his doting and tenderness. 9 years into our marriage, I didn't forget to spend 2 hours boiling medicine for him even when I was in confinement. But our relationship as husband and wife has gradually become cold, and his eyes are full of impatience and disgust. I pretended not to see his look, stretched exaggeratedly, and turned my head away. I didn't want him to see the slightly moist corners of my eyes. "Grace will pick up our daughter tomorrow." He was replying to a message and said to me without looking up, "The daughter is mine." But Grace always likes to act like the mistress of the house. She often goes to pick up our daughter without telling anyone. Once, I couldn't get through to my daughter on the phone, and I was so worried that I called the police. After that, Bruce got angry with me, thinking that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I shook my head, trying to dispel some unpleasant memories. I smiled and said, "Okay, help me thank this young lady." Bruce seemed to be stung. After a moment of silence, he flew into a rage. "Ruby, don't always challenge my bottom line." I curled up a bit to make myself lie more comfortably. "By the way, don't worry that a pregnant woman can't get a divorce. I had a miscarriage." Bruce didn't accompany me to any of the 5 prenatal checkups, but for the 4th one, he did send me halfway, only to receive a call from Grace. Her puppy was going to be sterilized, and she was feeling anxious. Of course, sterilizing a puppy is not as important as my prenatal checkup, but Grace is more important than me. Enduring the abdominal pain, I took a taxi by the roadside to the hospital. The doctor said there was a possibility of a miscarriage. And I was also in danger. Recently, Bruce has been busy accompanying Grace to meet her elders. So naturally, he couldn't remember the date of my 5th prenatal checkup. Well, this time, for my own safety, I chose to have an induced abortion. In the living room, Bruce clenched his fists and was silent for a long time after hearing the news. He knew that I had gone to all the prenatal checkups alone. He had no right to blame me for anything, but his words were full of sarcasm. Well, if you can't be a good wife, how can you be a good mother? I smiled and was about to go back to my room to sleep, leaving only one sentence. You're right. I can't be a good mother, so I deserve to have a miscarriage. Bruce and I met when we were young. The beginning of our love story wasn't anything spectacular. He said he took a liking to me at first sight. At that time, I also thought he was good-looking and felt shy. When we were in university, under the pressure of his family, he went to study in the Americas. I stayed in China to study. My life was plain, between the dormitory, the classroom, and the library. Because of his relationship with me, a girl from a poor family, his family cut off his allowance. He didn't give in. He squeezed out the cost of a round-trip ticket to come back to China once every 2 months from his scholarship. And that's how he developed his stomach problem. He liked the southern rice noodles I cooked. I felt sorry for his stomach problem and didn't put chili peppers in the noodles for him. But he would secretly drink the spicy soup left over from my meal. I found a prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to treat his stomach problem and boiled the medicine for him. He smiled and licked the dirt off my face. Both touched. After graduating from university, he came back to China. That year, my mother passed away in the hospital due to giving birth at an advanced age. My father, who had been longing for a son all his life, got drunk in the hospital. He pointed at my mother's body and cursed loudly, and then punched and kicked me. Bruce fought with my father and beat him up while being surrounded by my uncles. My father ended up with a lame leg, and Bruce had a cut on his back. I applied medicine to him with tears in my eyes. He turned his head and kissed me. He said that for the sake of just a child, he would never put his woman in danger. He said that if possible, he hoped I wouldn't have to give birth. He hoped I would always be healthy. That night, I gave myself to him because I wanted to have a child for him. When we were young, we said a lot of sweet words to each other. Now, he even forgot to accompany me to the prenatal checkups, which are essential for ensuring my basic health. A week after moving out of the villa, I went to the hospital for a follow-up check. I asked questions very carefully, fearing that I might leave behind any lingering health problems. The doctor prescribed some medicine to nourish blood and qi, and then thanked me. Ruby, the prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to treat stomach problems that you provided to the hospital last time has a very good effect. I knew it had a good effect. Bruce, being a wealthy young master, requires very careful conditioning. Over the years, the prescription I refined through his long illness couldn't be bad. When I went to pick up the medicine, I ran into Grace. She was full of insincere words, advising me to take care of my body. She also said that Bruce accompanied her to the hospital to see the dentist today. I ignored her. I actually thought that if this girl jumped into the Yellow River, people all over the country could have a sip of Longjing tea, which could be considered a blessing. Why are you here? Surprisingly, it was Bruce who spoke. He looked extremely unhappy. I was a bit curious. When does he show such an angry expression when Grace is around? When will you stop making trouble and move back? Bruce has always thought it's my fault. His words were like an order. I covered the medical bill in my hand and didn't want to pay attention to him. But he snatched the bill and his face turned even uglier. Is today your prenatal checkup? Or a follow-up check? Why didn't you tell me? Ruby, talk to me. How long are you going to keep making trouble? He still thought that my moving out of the villa was just me making trouble with him, that I was reluctant to leave him, and that it was a way to attract his attention. I couldn't stand his tone and politely gestured for him to step aside. Bruce, this is a hospital. Please don't make a scene. He lowered his voice and asked Grace. I asked you to check the time of Ruby's follow-up check. Why didn't you remind me? Grace's face was full of surprise and panic. I forgot too. I shook my head. I really didn't want to watch any more of their drama. Holding the medicine, I walked outside. My wrist suddenly tightened. Bruce grabbed my hand very tightly. I didn't remember today. But when will you come back? Bruce, if you have time to ask me questions, you also have time to accompany Miss Chu to see the doctor. I wonder when you'll have time to find a moment to get a divorce with me. Grace suddenly pointed at a notice board in the hospital, trying to interrupt the tug-of-war between Bruce and me. Ahem. Bruce, look. This hospital has a prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to regulate the stomach. She spoke in a sweet voice, pretending to be caring and cute. Aren't you always having a stomachache recently, Bruce? It says here that this is the latest high-quality prescription. I took the opportunity to break free from Bruce and walked out quickly. When I turned the corner and left, through the glass, I saw Grace shaking Bruce vigorously, and Bruce was standing in front of that notice board, staring at it without moving. Although I've been a housewife for many years, my working ability hasn't deteriorated. A new job, a new residence, and a new life. Everything is developing in a positive direction. On the day I urged my lawyer to prepare for a divorce lawsuit, Bruce called me. I hung up. He called again. I hung up. He called once more. I blocked his number and sent a message. Talk to my lawyer. After a while, my lawyer told me that Bruce's lawyer informed us to meet at a private kitchen restaurant. When I arrived, I didn't see either of the lawyers. Instead, I found that all of Bruce's family members were there. My daughter looked at me timidly and was sitting next to Grace. My heart ached, but I was also a bit annoyed. Bruce, where are the lawyers? Bruce stood up and then sat down again. He just said indifferently, "This is a family dinner. We're not talking about other things." A family dinner. Why is the assistant here for a family dinner? I was annoyed for a moment. Bruce looked at me and said softly, "Our daughter is here too." Regarding my daughter, I had already made up my mind. It's indeed pitiful for a child to grow up in a single-parent family. But in a family where the parents are unhappy, how can there be a child who grows up healthily? But in front of my daughter, I held back. My eyes turned red, and I stroked my daughter's face. We hadn't seen each other for a long time. In the eyes of my 7-year-old daughter, there was happiness and a hint of fear. Grace hugged my daughter and looked at me provocatively. "Susan, tell sister what the piano teacher has taught you recently." As soon as she said this, everyone looked at Grace with great approval. As Bruce's personal assistant, Grace meddles in all the affairs related to my daughter. I know that in the eyes of his family, a young lady like Grace, who also comes from a prestigious family, is worthy of taking care of their child. His mother is even worse. She resents that I once provoked Bruce to turn against the family. She has never thought that I have any upbringing and keeps making things difficult for me. In the past, for the sake of my daughter and Bruce, I endured all the grievances. Grace let go of my daughter, took out a paper bag, and handed it to Bruce. She pretended to be cute in a soft voice. Before at the hospital, Bruce stared at the notice board of the prescription for traditional Chinese medicine to treat stomach problems for a long time. I made several special trips and bought a lot of the medicine back. Bruce glanced at me, holding the paper bag of traditional Chinese medicine in his hand. He was stunned for a moment. Naturally, his family gave Grace a new round of praise. I squatted down and talked softly with my daughter. I don't care about her studies or piano playing. I only care about whether she is happy and healthy. My daughter clenched her right fist tightly, and her left index finger gently scratched my arm. Her eyes were full of caution. I suddenly became angry. I knew that this was a sign that the child was emotionally unstable and seeking dependence. Grace is in charge of my daughter's study, daily life, and extracurricular activities. What kind of scare has this 7-year-old child endured to be so cautious even in front of her mother? Bruce, I'll be in charge of our daughter's education from now on. With tears in my eyes, I held my daughter in my arms, and my daughter also hugged my arm tightly. Ruby, what kind of upbringing do you have? You're not fit to teach my family's child. Before Bruce could say anything, his mother said sharply. Bruce's face looked ugly. He stood up and stared into my eyes. What are you trying to do now? Grace had a look of contempt on her face and didn't miss the opportunity to speak in a sarcastic way. Sister Ruby, if you think I'm not doing it right, you can just. But Bruce suddenly turned around and scolded her. Shut up. He was obviously angry, and there were all sorts of indescribable emotions in his eyes when he looked at me. Ruby, what kind of jealousy are you getting worked up about this time? When will you be a mother who's not crazy and a wife who's not unreasonable? I didn't want to argue with him at all. But today, the anger that I had buried for years was completely ignited. I looked at him, recalling all the hopes in the past and all the disappointments and despair now. My chest was filled with emotions. Do you want to see what a truly crazy mother is like? What a truly unreasonable wife is like? Bruce squeezed his hand tightly, and the bag of traditional Chinese medicine burst. All the medicinal herbs that I was very familiar with spilled out. They scattered all over the table. Don't be like this. You're scaring me. Let's talk properly about whatever. Grace grabbed Bruce's sleeve, looking pitiful. Who wouldn't feel sorry for her? But I wouldn't. I picked up the scattered traditional Chinese medicine on the table and poked the dried herbal branches straight at Grace's face. Don't you know how to shut up? Do you want me to teach you? Grace was so scared by me that she hid behind Bruce and didn't dare to say anything more. This, of course, aroused Bruce's desire to protect her. That's enough. Ruby, put the things down. Why are you threatening her? At least she puts effort into my stomach problem. What about you? If you had cared more about me and our family, Grace wouldn't have to be so busy. Bruce's words stabbed me deeply. I sneered. I didn't care enough about you. But did you care about me? If you had cared about me, how could you not recognize these medicinal herbs? They were all refined by me day and night when you had a stomach problem. This is the prescription you've been drinking every day. Does Grace need to go to the hospital to get it? His family was surprised to see me suddenly become assertive. His mother seemed to have caught me in the act. She accused me of various issues in front of Bruce, saying that after hiding my true nature for so many years, I had finally revealed my true colors. Since things had come to this, I didn't really mind taking on such a bad reputation. Anyway, there was no need for me to keep enduring grievances and compromising. The only thing I couldn't let go of was my daughter. I squatted down and asked my daughter if she wanted to come with me. My daughter looked at Grace timidly. Grace immediately showed a triumphant expression and held out her hands to my daughter. Susan, come to sister. You still have a piano class today. How about sister takes you to practice the piano? She spoke in a soft voice and was praised by everyone. But to everyone's surprise, my daughter suddenly let out a sharp scream, turned around, and hugged my leg tightly, refusing to let go no matter what. I don't want to go to the piano class. I want to go with Mom. My eyes welled up with tears. After all, she was my daughter. Even though she was usually controlled by his family and we rarely got to meet, she still regarded me as her last haven. I patted my daughter's head to soothe her and questioned Grace about what she had done to my daughter. Of course, Grace wouldn't tell the truth. She was full of excuses and denials. So I turned to Bruce and asked him, "You said I don't care enough about our daughter. But what about you? Do you know why Susan has such a strong reaction to the piano class?" Bruce hadn't said a word since just now. Now, when I asked him, he came back to his senses and said, "It's normal for a child to want to avoid hardship. Don't make a big deal out of this here." I picked up my daughter and placed the divorce agreement that I had prepared long ago on the table. Then consider it me making a big deal out of it. I will never let my daughter stay in any environment that might harm her healthy growth. That day, I took my daughter away firmly. When we got home, I saw the scars on my daughter's body that were hidden by her clothes. After I soothed her several times, she told me that whenever she made even the slightest mistake, Grace would hit her. Always in places where it wouldn't be easily noticed. Grace was too eager to prove to his family that she could raise an excellent descendant of their family, so she wouldn't allow Susan to make any mistakes. I held my daughter in my arms and felt deeply regretful. If I had been tougher before, perhaps this wouldn't have happened. The next day, I took a leave for my daughter. I called my friend Diana, whom I hadn't been in touch with for a while, and we took my daughter to an amusement park. His family never allowed her to come to such places, thinking that it would make her lose her ambition. But I believed that this was the kind of childhood a child should have. Diana and I watched from below as my daughter rode the carousel. Seeing her happy, I finally felt at ease. But apparently, Diana still couldn't quite come to terms with the changes that had happened to me overnight. "Are you really going to divorce Bruce? You two were so in love before. How did it come to this?" Diana was a classmate of ours in university. She knew everything that had happened back then. It was precisely because she knew that she couldn't understand how Bruce had become like this. People change. It's just that I've been stuck in the same place, and it's time for me to look forward. He's a total jerk. It's okay. I'll introduce you to someone better. Sis. Diana patted her chest confidently. My phone rang again and again. It was Bruce, and I hung up on him every time. In the end, Bruce called Diana's phone. Diana, not knowing anything, answered the call and then awkwardly handed the phone to me. How did he know I was with Diana? I took the phone, and Bruce's voice came through. Susan should be at school today, not wasting her time in an amusement park like you. See, what did I tell you? Are you following me? I'm just worried that you can't take good care of Susan. Judging by this, you're really not fit to be a mother. Send Susan back and give her to Grace. I just felt like I had heard the biggest joke. So making a child happy means not taking good care of her. And beating her all over means taking good care of her. I hung up on Bruce, picked up my own phone, and sent Bruce the photos of the scars on my daughter's body. Bruce didn't reply. I was too lazy to pay attention to him and just went on with my new life as usual. My new job was going smoothly, and it also gave me a lot more time to go out and have fun with Diana. We went out with my daughter, and she became much more cheerful. With my daughter's nod, I sent her back to school. Now I had even more time for myself. A new junior colleague joined the company. He was young and obedient, and he would call me sister every day while following me around. He had just graduated from university. Every time he talked to me, he would blush, and even my daughter would tease him. I heard that he majored in music in university, so he had a lot in common with Susan. Only when he talked about music would he change his usual shy demeanor. Diana said that he must have a crush on me and wanted to be Susan's stepfather. I waved my hand, thinking it was impossible. How old was he? My daughter was already 8 years old. How could I delay his life? Moreover, that guy Bruce, why hasn't he signed the divorce agreement yet? I complained to Diana. The days without having to take care of a man were so great. I was really getting impatient. Bruce dragged it out for 2 whole weeks before coming to me with Grace. I was about to pick up Susan from school when Bruce blocked me at the door and dragged Grace to apologize to me. Grace is too young to know how to take care of a child. She did a lot of extreme things. I brought her here to apologize to you. I didn't know how Bruce had reprimanded Grace. It was the first time I saw such an unwilling expression on this woman's face. She apologized to me reluctantly, begging for my forgiveness. She kept repeating the same few words, and I was so tired of hearing them. Are you done? If you're done, you can leave. I still need to pick up my daughter. Just as I was about to leave, Bruce grabbed my hand. Ruby. He held me, but he didn't say anything for a long time. I hadn't seen him being so hesitant for many years. When he and I first got together, he would always try to figure out my mood like this. He would guess whether I was happy or sad that day and whether he had done anything to make me unhappy. Later, Bruce became the decisive and forceful Bruce, and his attitude towards me was no different from that towards his subordinates. It was only me who had to guess his thoughts. Now he was acting like this again. Who was he trying to show it to? I shook off Bruce's hand and walked straight towards the garage. Grace was very dissatisfied with my attitude. She ran up and blocked my way. Uncle has something to say to you. Can't you see that? How can you treat him like this? Shut up. Bruce interrupted Grace's chattering. This has nothing to do with you. Grace had obviously never been treated so harshly by Bruce before. I guessed that she hadn't had a good time recently. Because of the matter with my daughter, Bruce had scolded her a lot. But she must have never expected that Bruce would scold her for my sake. After all, even I couldn't figure out what Bruce was up to. Uncle, I just can't stand the way she treats you. She doesn't even know what you've been through these days. This is a matter between husband and wife. It has nothing to do with you. The words, husband and wife, stung Grace. She took 2 steps back, bit her lip, and left crying, just as I was about to ask Bruce if he didn't need to chase after her. My phone rang. It was my lovely junior colleague, Edward, on the phone. He anxiously told me that Susan was missing. Edward got off work early today, thinking of giving my daughter a gift. He came to the school and waited for her, but he didn't expect that even after all the students had left, she still hadn't come out. Since he came early and knew that I definitely hadn't arrived yet, he went to the classroom to ask the teacher and learned that my daughter had already left. I rushed to the school. Edward was standing next to the homeroom teacher, stamping his feet in anxiety. Is there any news about Susan? The homeroom teacher shook her head, and we had to search separately. Bruce also came with me. When he heard that Susan was missing, his first reaction was to blame me, but I grabbed his collar and said to him in a fierce tone that he had never seen before, if anything happens to Susan, the first person I won't forgive is you. I knew I was lashing out at him, but over the years, the number of times I had seen my daughter could be counted on one hand. If I could have seen her more often and known her better, perhaps I could have guessed where my daughter might go when she went missing. Bruce followed me the whole time and asked his people to help search for my daughter all over the city. But this made me even more afraid. I was afraid that his family would find my daughter before me, and if that happened, I would surely lose my daughter forever. But fortunately, the first person to find Susan was Edward, in the school's abandoned warehouse. She had been locked up by a group of naughty children. My daughter had been knocking on the door for help, but because the place was remote, no one came to rescue her for a long time. Fortunately, Edward heard her. This wasn't the first time such a thing had happened. Usually, those children would let my daughter out before school was over to prevent being discovered, but they forgot today. I asked my daughter if she had told Bruce about it. My daughter told me that Bruce was too busy and didn't have time to care about such things, and Grace would just tell her not to cause trouble for her, if it wasn't for me taking care of her recently, which made her develop the mentality to seek help. I don't know how long she would have been locked up here. The occurrence of such a thing was definitely related to the teacher's usual negligence in management. I demanded that the school deal with those so-called naughty children. Bruce was dissatisfied with my high-profile approach. He thought it wasn't something to be proud of and wanted to solve it privately. But I refused. I said to Bruce, "It's because you couldn't protect her that this happened. You don't deserve to make demands on me." After saying that, I took my daughter away. After leaving, I took my daughter to the hospital. The long-term school bullying had caused her serious psychological trauma. I gave the hospital's diagnosis to my lawyer and filed a lawsuit in court, on the grounds that Bruce didn't have the ability to take good care of our daughter. I obtained the custody of my daughter and also got the divorce certificate from Bruce. The 9-year-long love affair between Bruce and me came to an end at this moment. When I got the divorce certificate, I found that I didn't feel anything. It turned out that my feelings for him had long been worn away over the years. Edward was waiting for me outside the courthouse, holding a bouquet of flowers, ready to give them to me. A bouquet of sunflowers, representing hope and new beginnings. Now it would be too fake to pretend that I couldn't see his feelings. He was very good to me, and also paid a lot of attention to my daughter. But I still didn't have the intention of accepting him, from any perspective. I didn't plan to start a new relationship. I took Edward's flowers and joked, "Are you giving me these for Susan to crack the seeds?" Although Edward was shy, he was very smart. He understood my rejection and didn't say anything. He just said that he had another gift for my daughter and invited her to go to a musical together during the summer vacation. When he said this, he nervously licked his lips. I knew that he actually wanted to invite me, but I shook my head and refused Edward on behalf of my daughter. I promised my daughter that I would take her on a trip during the summer vacation to heal the scars in her heart, and also to heal my soul that had withered for Bruce for 9 years. I finally got my freedom, and I was going to have a great time, but I overlooked the fact that Bruce wasn't an easy person to deal with. The powerful Bruce, who could cover the sky with one hand, managed to get my daughter's medical records, pointing at the doctor's diagnosis on it, on the grounds that the doctor recommended giving my daughter the care of a warm family. He came to me to ask for a remarriage. I cursed the doctor 100 times in my heart for lacking medical ethics. How could he so casually disclose the patient's privacy to others? But since the other party was my daughter's father, it seemed to be in line with the regulations. I didn't know what had gotten into Bruce. He didn't want his young and beautiful assistant but came to me, a woman past her prime, to ask for forgiveness. But Bruce stood at the door, looking extremely tired, as if the recent days had made him lose his glory all of a sudden. He was no longer the superior CEO in front of me. Instead, he was like the Bruce when we first got together, shy and cute, just like Edward. He was the Bruce who would skip meals and save money for 2 months just to come and see me. He was the Bruce who would put his heart into pleasing me and worry about whether I was angry or not. "Ruby, I know it's my fault. I shouldn't have been so busy with work and ignored you. Can you give me another chance?" "Bruce, people should look forward. My decision to divorce you wasn't a momentary impulse. Our relationship has long been worn out. Your discomfort now is just because you haven't gotten used to it yet. And I have long been used to such days under your indifference. Bruce, what you need isn't a reunion but to get used to the new situation." I looked at Bruce and felt that he now resembled myself when I first realized that he didn't love me anymore. He still thought we could get back together, probably because he thought he still had feelings for me and was unwilling to accept the fact that he had already changed his heart. "Susan is in this state now. She can't grow up without a father. Give me a chance. It's also a chance for Susan." Okay, I really can't lose you. But she has never received your fatherly love. For her, there's no difference between having a father and not having one, is there? As for whether you can lose me, what does that have to do with me? But Our daughter emerged from the room. She looked at Bruce timidly, hugged my leg, and showed an aggressive stance towards Bruce. She was protecting me. You see, both Susan and I don't welcome you. You can leave now. I closed the door, but I knew Bruce wouldn't leave easily. Every time I went out these days, I could see Bruce waiting downstairs, but he just watched from a distance and didn't take a single step forward, because I said he wasn't welcome here. It's quite funny. In the past, he always turned a deaf ear to whatever I said. Now he obeys every word I say. According to Diana, the entire Jean Corporation is in chaos now, all because Bruce hasn't been going to work and has been coming to my place every day. His mother is almost going crazy. In their mouths, I, a single mother, have become the femme fatale who causes all the trouble. Grace comes to persuade Bruce to leave every day, but now Bruce doesn't even glance at her. Grace had no other choice but to come to the company and block me, asking me how long I intended to torture Bruce. I never intended to torture him. Isn't all of this his own choice? Just like me in the past. His attitude towards me was so clear-cut, but I was willing to stay by his side, longing for him to still love me. My attitude towards him is also very clear now. If he insists on putting on a bitter drama, he's just bringing trouble on himself. After hearing this, Grace started to go crazy. She cursed at me like a madwoman and tried to pounce on me and hit me. I called the security guards to restrain her. I was too lazy to listen to her accusations, which were nothing more than things like hating why I had a place in Bruce's heart and why she couldn't compare to me. It has nothing to do with me. Belated affection is always cheaper than grass. Grace was dragged out. And finally, I had some peace and quiet. It started to overcast outside, and it seemed like it was going to rain. When I got home, it was raining the hardest. Bruce stood at the door like a drowned rat and asked me if I could take him in. I told him to dream on. I walked past Bruce and closed the door directly. Diana was waiting for me at home. We had made an appointment to have hot pot at home tonight. It was just perfect with the rain outside. Bruce is outside. Aren't you going to do anything about it? Why should I care about him? Will he share the meat with you and me? Is this little bit of meat even enough for you to eat alone? I asked Diana, and Diana burst into laughter, saying that I did the right thing and that's exactly how I should treat Bruce. Actually, I don't particularly want to take revenge on him. I'm just too lazy to care about him. Men are not as important as hot pot, are they? But I didn't expect that since I didn't let Bruce in, he actually stood outside in the rain all night. When I saw Diana off in the morning, I tripped over the person lying at the door. Bruce was lying at the door, frowning, his eyes tightly closed, and his hand clutching his stomach hard. I didn't know if he was dead or not. I bent down and touched his forehead. It was burning hot. Diana and I dragged him into the house together. Then I asked Diana to take our daughter out to play because I didn't want the sick person to infect our daughter. Bruce woke up while I was out buying medicine. When I got home, he was dragging his sick body to clean up the mess Diana and I left behind last night. Are you planning to die in my house and make me take responsibility? In the face of my words, Bruce was at a loss. He was still holding a plate with congealed red oil in his hand, not knowing whether to put it down or not. I just wanted to share some of the burden with you. He used to say the same thing. At that time, he was abroad and I was in China. In order to catch up with him, I considered applying to a foreign school and stayed up late studying every day. He also wanted to do some housework and told me in the bathroom full of soap bubbles that he wanted to share some of the burden for me. 9 years have passed, and his housework skills haven't improved at all. I don't need it. The best thing you can do for me is to leave my house right away. I have nowhere else to go now. Can you please take me in? Look, the CEO of Jean Corporation is acting like a stray dog in front of me. You have nowhere to go. Mom is very dissatisfied with me. She said that if I can't solve my marriage problem, I shouldn't go home again. Only Bruce would think that the marriage problem his mother mentioned includes me. Even at this point, that person would never accept me as a daughter-in-law. But I still said to Bruce, fine, then don't go back. Bruce's eyes lit up because of this. He quickly cleaned up everything on the table, wiped his hands, and asked me what I wanted to eat. I threw the medicine to him and told him to take care of himself first. Bruce stayed at my place for 3 days. During these 3 days, he did everything a father and a husband should do. And even more than that. If he had done this before we got divorced, I'm afraid I would have woken up laughing in my dreams. But now, looking at his flattery, I don't feel anything in my heart. However, seeing our daughter so happy, I still asked her if she still wanted a father. But our daughter hugged me and told me that she didn't care. She knew what her father had done before, and she only hoped that I could be happy. I kissed our daughter and promised her that even if it was just me, I would still give her the best. On the 5th day, I stopped Bruce, who was about to go out, and gave him a sum of money. Bruce was confused. I told him that this was the payment for the housework he had done at my place in the past 2 days. Why? I let you stay because it was the reward for me taking care of you when you were sick. I was busy in the following days and let you stay for 2 more days. This is your salary. Is there a problem? Bruce didn't reply for a long time. Our daughter had already pushed out a suitcase that was even bigger than her and was ready to leave. Edward and Diana were waiting for me at the door. I opened the door and said to Bruce, who was standing there dumbfounded, "Hurry up and leave. I'm going to lock the door." "Where are you going?" Edward picked up our daughter, pushed my suitcase away, and said, "To the airport." "Right, Susan." Bruce panicked. He ran up and pointed at Edward, asking me, "Is it because of him? Is it because of him that you don't want to get back together with me? You're crazy." I waved away Bruce's hand and got into the car-hailing vehicle that I had already ordered. Edward put my suitcase in the trunk for me. Bruce chased after us, grabbed the car door, and tried to pull me out. Edward grabbed his wrist and pushed him away. "Ruby, are you really leaving?" I ignored him and directly told the driver to drive. I could see Bruce following us in his car behind. Diana asked me if I really wasn't touched at all. When Bruce pushed the door open and got home, he was holding his aching stomach with his hand. At the airport, Bruce followed me all the way. Every time he tried to come forward, Edward blocked him behind. After I went through the security check, looking at Bruce outside the security check, finally, I said the words that I had always wanted to say to him. "Goodbye, Bruce." I turned around and left, leaving Bruce, who was crying loudly, behind me. Our daughter asked me why I didn't tell him that we were just going on a trip. I said, "There's no need to explain everything to others. Before taking care of their feelings, we need to love ourselves first." The end.